You're tuned into the Growth Ceilings podcast, the show for builders, dreamers, and leaders ready to break limits and grow beyond what they thought possible.
Hello, everyone, and welcome again to the Growth Ceilings podcast. My name is Jim Lovelady. I'm a professional EOS implementer. EOS is the Entrepreneurial Operating System. Joining me today is Sanjay Sethi, founder and CEO of many businesses for that matter. A global venture scout is what his role is with Adventary Capital Partners. Did I get that right, Sanjay?
You got that right. And maybe I'll just jump in here just a bit. So the two key businesses for me are Sethio, which is basically where we build digital assets, and First Choice Advisory, which is an international advisory service.
So tell us a little bit, Sanjay, well, you and I actually have a history together. I don't know if you know this or not. You and I were both part of NewChip back in 2022.
Now that you mention it, I get that faint thought that, yes, we never crossed paths during NewChip, but I think I saw your name in there. So a good reminder.
There was only one Jim Lovelady in there, I can guarantee that. So for our audience listening in on this, NewChip Accelerator was an incubator of sorts for startups, and it tapped into people like Sanjay and myself who were executives and business leaders across many different industries. And we served in financial and strategic and advisory capacities for entrepreneurs and business owners. I helped quite a few actually from a strategic standpoint. I did many calls actually. Nothing really transpired from all of that effort. I think NewChip, correct me if I'm wrong, Sanjay, was around for a little less than 2 years. Am I correct?
Yes.
And when it went down hard. I heard a bunch of rumbling at the end, and then that was it. Not another peep out of it. I think one or two emails were spread across a blast email from somebody, but that was it. And that was a couple, 3 years ago when that all ended. I thought it was a great idea. And when it came my way, I jumped on it because I felt like I had something to offer, which is kind of like a tie into what I do today as a professional EOS implementer. I teach, coach, and facilitate the tools, the process of the entrepreneurial operating system, which is probably how we connected for this podcast here, Sanjay, and reached out. You were gracious enough to accept my invitation. So enough about me. More important, let's talk about you. Give us a little perspective on what you're doing today and what brought you here.
So to talk about today, I'll have to step back into yesterday a little bit. So almost 3/4 of the life, the corporate life, I was a corporate manager, lucky enough to work with world-class organizations, be it IBM, be it Unisys, be it Tata Group of India, and a few others. Luckily for me, my roles happened to be such, whether it was in channel development, whether it was in business development, project management, that I always traveled a lot, worked as team member in many organizations, and also as a team leader in many organizations. Luckily for me, I had both great managers and some not so great managers. So that taught me a few life lessons, corporate for life lessons. So somewhere around 2014, I decided to become an entrepreneur, started my company called Sethio. So it's Sethio.com. And the objective was to help smaller companies who were struggling with higher cost of making websites, especially mobile apps. Mobile apps were exploding, but they were very expensive for a common business. And I saw an opportunity, and luckily for me, I didn't have to search for clients. It started with one client in Texas who's still my client after all these years. And that's how the journey started. I was, when you're on corporate treadmill for a long time, you do get tired. You enjoy the exercise, you enjoy the health that you gain. But at the same time, because corporate structures are such that you, for lack of better words, you are in a cage, all said and done. And if you are a tiger of the jungle, you probably don't want to stay in the cage. You don't want to be a zoo animal. No disrespect to anyone. It's just a metaphor. I've been a corporate manager, so I'm not dissing anyone. I'm just saying that there comes a time when you have this huge security of a structured job, and there's this plunge you want to take, and you are standing on a precipice. The
Hmm.
water looks too deep. You're scared. You don't know what's going to happen. Are you going to strike a rock? You're going to go deep in the water, never come out. So all those things cross your mind. But again, once you jump, if you're doing bungee jumping and you
Hmm.
keep debating if you should take a plunge, you shouldn't be there. So I was going to do a bungee jump and not think too much about it. Luckily for me, my safety cord was good. My first client was willing to start with me. So I had this safety cord. And I said, you know what? Uh, End of the day, let's say all said and done, year, 2 years later, I do not enjoy this process or I'm not fit for it. Then you know what? I still can come back to a job, but I may not get the same opportunity. So that's how I took the decision, jumped in, and here I am many years later. And like you mentioned, just like you, I've been mentoring startups, and it's an enjoyable process. I never thought about it before I started. Someone requested me. I said, I'm not sure, led teams, but those are vetted teams. When people come to me as interns or as my team members, there's a process that I've become through. Startups are questionable. Founders are going to present best of themselves, but I don't know them. Uh, but I was told that I have skills that that person saw. And I said, you know what? If you are so confident, I will try it. Luckily for me, I enjoyed the process. The feedback from the mentee was great. And that's how it.
So Sanjay, I got to ask you because I'm sure the audience listening in on this conversation wants to know as well. So when you made the jump, the bungee jump, were there tigers in the water?
Well, it'll be very non-adventurous if they were not. You know,
Okay.
I mean, it'll not be exciting enough. I mean, unless there are fluctuations in the market, unless you meet different kind of clients. So at one at one time, I was meeting clients worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and here I was looking at people who had $3,000 to spend. So that itself is a huge transformation in terms
Yeah.
of how you were supported by a huge structure behind you, and you were talking of large deals versus you're on your own, and the guy in front of you is worried about that small amount of money, the budget that he or she has. So even if there are no other tigers in the water, the point is the market itself is built such that unless you learn to navigate very quickly, you will be devoured by something. It may not be the tiger, but there'll be something.
You are spot on with that. I love that story and I love the way you connected all of that. I come from a sales and marketing background for about 40 years of leadership roles with early stage companies. I worked for a public company. I worked for General Electric for 8 years, and I've done everything from startup to small to medium sized business, early stage, Series A, Series B, private equity, you name it. I've done all of that. And to your very point, when you venture out on your own and you take advantage of that entrepreneurial spirit, it does have some ups and downs. One of the things you quickly realize, you're putting just as much effort into a small, what you might deem to be a small deal. And in your corporate life, you came from, multi-million dollar deals perhaps, and all of a sudden you're chasing something for a much smaller amount, but you're putting as much effort, if not more, into getting that done. And I think what I've learned along the way, it's about how you help first, how you offer value, how you are always thinking about the solution for the customer. The thing I've learned is that the opportunity will come if your mindset is help first. So with EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, we have what's called an abundance mindset. And for an entrepreneur, it's like having a blind faith. It's, wanting to make sure that everything's just right. But as an entrepreneur, it doesn't always work out that way. You got to have some blind faith along the way that you're going to get that deal. People are going to do what you ask them to do. People are going to perform to what the expectations are. We're all going to understand what your vision is and all the rest. So it's a whole different experience when you jump out, as you described, when you come out of the structure and now you're swimming on your own and something out there is going to devour you. I get it. That's great. That's fantastic. So tell me about your role as a global venture scout. What are you doing today?
So, because I've been mentoring and I come across mentees from across the world. One day I'm meeting someone from Canada, the other day from US, the next Mexico, the next China, next Hong Kong, Dubai, India. And we know, end of the day, anyone who is in any sort of business, any sort of entrepreneurship is looking for just two things. One, they need money to start, and then they need clients to keep having the money roll in and them expanding or scaling or even just sustaining their team and building new services, new products, etc. So honestly, I cannot claim to be a financial wizard or anything, but I do see the needs of founders to get some kind of reassurance that when they're many people bootstrap. So when they look at their reserves, I mean money that they have versus what their plans are, they know that either they need to have clients paying them the money, or to reach that stage where a lot of people are paying them a lot of money, they need to have some kind of capital come in. So I saw that need, and like I said, it's not that I have a background in finance, but obviously the need exists, and I thought I could help those startups, those founders who need money, but they have a valid solution. They have the wherewithal in terms of their own experiences, skills, talents, team that I can support. I cannot, blind faith only works till a certain level. At some time, you got to open your eyes, right? So so the idea is to vet the prospective startups. Doesn't matter what stage of startup life they are at. Do they need pre-seed money, seed money, Series A, B? But if they have valid business idea or they are already making revenue, my objective is to understand if the idea is scalable, will continue to get clients, and then help them grab that money that they so desperately might need.
So I'm going to tap into what you just shared, and I completely agree with you on 1 and 2, and I'm going to offer number 3. And this is like a little commercial now for what I do, and it's EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System. Sanjay, are you familiar with this at all?
A little bit, yes.
So really, this is a third element that you talked about. You need money, you need clients. The third thing that every entrepreneur needs is a business operating system. And what I'm demonstrating here is the Entrepreneurial Operating System. When you think about a business, there's 6 components of a business. One at the top is defining your vision. Who are you? Where are you going? And how are you going to get there? Second, and to the left, is people, identifying the right people for the right seats in your business. 3 is using data in your business to predict both short and long term and to pick up on trends in your business. 4, down to the left, is issues. How do we as a ownership, as a leadership team, identify, discuss, and solve issues? And then 5, and it's the one that everyone loves, process. How do you document your key processes that are important to be repeated and performed the same way each and every time so you have a predictable outcome? And then finally, traction. Vision without traction is hallucination. And we want to bring your vision down to the ground. And what I mean by that, everybody in the company understands what it is we are aiming for. So everybody understands their role, their responsibility, their contribution to the business. You quantify that contribution by tracking metrics, signing a quantifiable output to each seat on the team. So these 6 components you see here, my role as an implementer is to help you as an entrepreneur, as a company, become healthy in each of these 6. Most of us want to aim for 100%, but that's not realistic. If I can get you to 80% healthy in all 6 components, you will have mastered EOS. And that's what I teach, coach, and facilitate as an implementer. I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, this is awesome. I mean, uh, again, just recall when I said when you move from structured backgrounds to unstructured areas as a founder, these are the kind of frameworks that can help you get structured. So you may not have the backing of, a large corporate behind you, but the structure is gonna see you through to whatever your objectives are. So I think I've not been too familiar with it, but imagine when you look at this cartwheel of EOS, we know that we actually do all this, but without realizing, or maybe where people will miss is like you said, you might be 100% on people front and you might be 10% on processes, and that's gonna uh, throw your cartwheel into the sea. So I mean, this is fantastic. This is fantastic. And so, like I said, I think all of us actually follow the same framework without realizing and without an oversight of how to optimize it for your specific business, for your specific services.
Yeah, I will make the blind assumption that the fact that we were both part of New Chip Accelerator, you had a level of experience, oversight, and a structure to offer, whether it was financial, strategic, business development, whatever it may have been. That's what made that exciting and part of, I wanted to be part of that. And it kind of was my path to eventually discovering EOS. Let me reach behind me here because I'm going to offer this to you. When we're done here today, I'd like to send you a copy of this book called Traction, written by Gino Wickman. Gino is the author of the book Traction. Gino, at a young age, inherited his family's business. He discovered very quickly he had a knack for, or he had the entrepreneurial spirit. He had a knack for helping others. He became a member of EO Detroit, the Entrepreneurial Organization Detroit. He's one of the charter members. This is back in the 2000s. And he discovered that he could create some tools that would help others along the way. And then he ventured out onto his own, eventually developing the tools that we today now know as the Entrepreneurial Operating System. And for myself, I was in transition back in 2011. I'd started my own company. I came out of selling software, licensed software, SaaS solutions. In fact, I'll age myself. I sold application service provider solutions when email first came out back in 2000. And I was evangelizing and teaching digital marketing to retailers in particular, but chief marketing officers, VP of marketing, teaching them how to convert from traditional print to digital advertising to be able to dynamically target and communicate with desired audiences to generate a conversion. And when I was in transition, I also had become good in my experience of using CRM or customer relationship management tools. So I was quite proficient with Salesforce.com. That's what it was called back then. And I took Salesforce and email marketing. I took chocolate and peanut butter, put the two together, and I had a pretty good combination. And when I was in transition, I started my own company called Demand Dynamics, helping small to medium-sized businesses who made an investment in a CRM. Oftentimes, these companies would buy seat licenses on a CRM and hand it to the VP of sales and say, here, go make some money. And the VP of sales had no idea of what to do with it. And they would just fumble it and nothing would come of it. I would then go to companies and teach them how to use that to their advantage, not only to find more leads, but to manage the customer relationship ongoing, sending lifetime value and all the rest. I was pretty good at it. Got it to around 25 grand a month. And I started to hire people that I knew in business, people I had worked with, people who also were in transition, friends of mine. That didn't go so well. Sometimes when you have the best of intentions and you hire your friends, it can go the wrong way, and it did. I didn't have an operating system to build my business, and it ended up being chaos. So long story short, I went to work for my largest customer. I worked there for almost 9 years, let's say. We sold that business. We'd taken it to $90 million, sold that business. After the pandemic, I joined a digital marketing company as its chief revenue officer. And when I walked in the door, my first day on the job, CEO hands me this book, Traction, says, here, we're going to implement this as a leadership team. Read this book and let's put this thing into play for our business. The problem was, A, everybody misinterpreted the book. B, we had the wrong people in the wrong seats. So it was a recipe for disaster. Once we hired an implementer like what I do today, clarity struck all of us, and we started to now see the light, and we employed the tools, the foundational tools of EOS, and we saw immediate results. We saw a transformation in the business. At the same time, I met folks from EOS. They said, hey, we like you. We want you to join our team as an implementer. And here I am today. Now I help, like what we were doing at NewChip, but I have a system. I help small to medium-sized businesses, typically 10 to 250 employees. Doesn't matter what industry, doesn't matter the amount of revenue, but it's typically founder-led, owner-led, family-owned businesses that need help. They're stuck. They don't have the right people in the right seats. They don't have a clear vision. They're not using their data to their advantage. Processes all over the place. It's chaos. Their meetings suck. They don't know how to meet as a team. And they're not getting any kind of traction. There's no accountability. There's no discipline within the leadership team. I change all that. There's 3 things I do. 1, I help to define who you are, where you're going, how you're going to get there, defining the vision. 2, I help you establish traction through discipline and accountability. And then 3, making the whole business healthy. So whether you're a 5-person team or a 50-person team, doesn't matter. Everybody understands their role, responsibility, their number, their contribution to the business. And they know where we're going long term. They know where we're going to be in 3 years. They know how we're going to get there in 1 year. So I help you define all of that, and that's what I teach. So that all came with the book Traction. And again, for being my guest today, I'd like to offer this to you. I'm happy to mail a copy of this to you.
That'll be awesome. That's a bonus I didn't expect. So thank you very much. I mean, uh, it's very impressive what you're doing. I hope folks who see this or listen to this podcast, um, they can get clarity of themselves and their business by chatting with someone like you. Don't necessarily have to sign up, but at least just having that clarity of what it can do for them, I think that's a great start to begin with.
Yeah, you offered a lot of great, I'll say golden nuggets in what you shared. You told a very good story, and I'm going to ask this question anyways. And you may have already explained some of this in what you shared, but kind of as a parting gift, if you will, give us your wisdom. What would you, for the new entrepreneur, someone like we described earlier, somebody coming out of a corporate environment, someone who has an idea, it's been burning in them for a long time. They're ready to jump, right? They're ready to do that bungee jump you talked about. And they recognize there might be a tiger or 2 in the water, right? They recognize something's going to devour them if they're not careful. What would you, and you already articulated, so I don't want to take the answer, but I'm going to say it anyways, is that you said, hey, you need revenue, you need clients, and I offered you need a business operating system. But what other wisdom could you pass on to an aspiring entrepreneur or someone who's going to inherit a business? Help me understand how you would see that.
So, one quote I always use is start from where you are, do what you can, and do not overthink anything.
I wrote down your quote. I saw your quote on your LinkedIn page, and I wrote that down. I was going to bring it up, and thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I was sitting down today, and it just occurred to me that because entrepreneurship is not easy, the bigger challenge is not your idea. Your challenge is overcoming yourself and overcoming overthinking. But I will also add another one, and I'll say this: action is the antidote to every anxiety and every depression. So if you start acting today, you will watch the ghost of anxiety go away from you, but you must act. So action is the antidote to most of the problems that people perceive.
So the first quote you shared, and I saw this on your LinkedIn for full disclosure, start from where you are, use what you have, do what you can. And my takeaway from that was don't overthink it. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't make it more difficult than it has to be. Jump in there. We use the metaphor of the bungee jump, right? Start from where you are, use what you have, do what you can. Boom, that's it. Next was action is the antidote to every anxiety and problem. I think anxiety and problem, I think they have equal weight, right? You got the running thing in the 2:00 in the morning, the anxiety, the Sunday night scaries, what am I going to do for payroll or whatever the case may be? Well, I got to take care of these 20 things tomorrow morning. And you do your best to attack each problem. But and I know, as soon as you open up your computer or you start your business for the day or however you go about your business, as soon as you do, new problems are coming your way. New issues are going on to the list. And you have the best of intentions. Maybe you get to 1 or 2 on your list that you started with, but you just picked up 5 more for the day.
And sorry to interject, but the words that you used, problem, that brought to my mind another quote, which is only dead people have no problem. If you're alive, you are gonna have problems. Learn to somehow deal with them. Because if you have no problems, you're most likely not alive.
We're just a couple days from Halloween, and so this is a really appropriate quote. Only dead people have no problems. That is awesome. That is fantastic. Well, Sanjay, I want to thank you for your time. You've been fantastic. I've really enjoyed our conversation. We should do this again. I think you have a lot to offer entrepreneurs and business owners and business leaders in general. For our audience, thank you for listening in today. Again, my name is Jim Lovelady, professional EOS implementer. Look me up and let me know how I may help you. Thank you for your time. We'll see you the next time on the Growth Ceilings Podcast.
You've been watching the Growth Ceilings Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who's ready to grow.